Hi everybody! Today I'm going to teach you how to do a really easy scarf pattern. You can whip this up easily in a day or two over a weekend. This is the perfect scarf if you are living in a place that maybe doesn't get too cold. You want something a little bit more airy. This is the V-stitch scarf. Pull it up really close and you can see, if we unfold it here, how airy it can get in between. So it's that perfect scarf that's going to give you a little bit of warmth and it also allow some air through it. So today I'm going to teach you how to make this scarf, tassels included, and I will also give you the instructions for how to make this scarf with a little bit smaller yarn, and this one I did with no tassels. So let's get things started. For the main scarf that we are talking about today and recreating, I used a 4 worsted weight yarn. It ended up measuring about 8 inches wide and 72 inches long. Now, I did not measure the fringe. I figured fringe is more of a personal choice. So for reference, this is about 4 inches long. So it adds 8 inches total to the length. But again, you don't have to make this with tassels, or you can, totally your choice. So the yarn I used for this project is a Big Twist, which is Joann's house brand, Carousel yarn. It is 100% acrylic, and I used a 5.5 millimeter hook to work it up. I specifically went to Joann's looking for something kind of neutral, fallish, and this caught my eye immediately. This is the color Wheat. Woo. And I just love how the colors changed. I love that there was kind of 2 colors in one, so the transitions looked even, I don't know, cooler to me. So this is just a perfect neutral scarf. The other scarf that I made up, and I will give you the instructions for it at the very end of the video, was also from Joann's. It is Big Twist Supernova. Now, if you look here, it is 80% acrylic and 20% wool. So some wool to me is pretty soft. This is the kind of wool that I don't know if I'd necessarily want it against my skin. With a jacket on, I think it's great. And some people may not feel that way, but look, I love working with wool, like merino wool, things like that. This is just not one of those wools that I would necessarily want just, laying around my neck all day. However, on a cold day, yes, it will keep you super warm. So this is the color Terraforming. All of the Supernova yarns have kind of a space theme to them. I love it. So this was a fantastic kind of autumny colorway to me. It has these really pretty, like, dark pumpkiny oranges, and this is actually brown, and then it had some of this, and then it had this beautiful cream, and I just love how this worked up. This was only 6 inches wide, and it ended up being 77 inches long. Now, like I said, this one I did without tassels. So tassels can be added to it, but I felt like it was a skinny scarf and it just didn't really need the tassels. So we will visit that again in a little bit. To make this scarf, you are going to need a 4 worsted weight yarn, about 340 yards worth, and then you will need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You will also need a pair of scissors for those tassels. And then, as always, a darning needle to weave in those ends. Let's get going. As always, we are going to start with our slip knot. Make sure you leave a nice tail. And we're going to put it on our hook. So the pattern calls for 30 chains. I'm going to do a smaller sample, so I'm only going to do 15. You want to work this up in a multiple of 3. So if you want to change the length, or excuse me, the width, keep that in mind. $14 and $15. Now for our first row, we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Remember that this does not count as a chain. This is our first chain from the hook, and this is our second. So go ahead and place a single crochet into that chain. And you are going to work a single crochet all the way to the end of your chains. And into the last one. So because we worked into the second chain, this means that we will have one less than our starting chain. So I chained 15, I will have 14. For the pattern, you chained 30, you will end up with 29 single crochets. So let's just double check here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Perfect. Now our second row is where the fun truly begins. We are going to chain 1, turn our work. Now this chain does not count as a stitch. This is merely to help us with getting a tiny bit of height and to continue on to the next row. You are going to do a double crochet into this very first stitch, this last single crochet you created on the row below. 2 and through 2. We are going to skip the next single crochet, and in here we are going to create our V-stitch. We are going to do a double crochet through 2, through 2, chain 1, and do another double crochet into the exact, oops, into the exact same stitch we just worked into. So it'll look like this: our double crochet, our skip, and then our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we are going to skip the next 2 stitches, and we are going to work a V-stitch into this third stitch. So yarn over, go through 2, go through 2, chain 1, another double crochet, through 2, through 2. And we're going to repeat that until we get to our last 2 stitches. 1, 2, and create a V-stitch. Now, if you need a little bit more help on the V-stitch, you need me to go a little bit slower, I did just create a tutorial, so I will leave the link to that, and you can check that out and get a little bit extra help. All right. We are to the last 2 stitches, this one and this one. So just like how we skipped 1 stitch down here, we're going to skip this one, and we're going to double crochet into the last stitch of the row. So it'll look a little something like this. We have these 2 double crochets and then our V stitches in the middle. And then the second row, or sorry, the third row is going to be the row that we repeat through most of this pattern. So we're going to chain 1, turn. Remember, this doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to double crochet into that very first stitch. And then we are going to V-stitch into this space. So right into the middle of the V-stitch from the row below, right there. So we are going to yarn over and double crochet right into the middle, chain 1, and then double crochet again into that space. So you will end up with a V, boop, boop, into a V. So we're going to ignore these, and we're going to go again into the middle of the next V stitch from the row below. So we're going to double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And you're going to repeat that until you have 2 stitches left. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then here we have 1, 2. So we are going to double crochet into the last stitch. Or if you want another way to look at this, when you've run out of V stitches from the row below, then you know you're at the end. This is not a double, or is not a V stitch. So you will go into the top right here. Make sure that you are going into where there is this distinct 2 yarns. Do not try to go to the side of it into that chain that you made to get the last row started. You will start getting a scarf that ends up really going wide. So again, we are going into this stitch, or skip 1, double in the last, or double in the next. So this is 2 rows down. We have V's and V's and doubles on doubles. Go through this one more time. I'm going to chain 1, turn our work, double crochet into that very first stitch, and then working into the V's from the row below, we are going to create V stitches, which are double, chain 1, double. And then we're back at the end, and we're going to go into this stitch. So we're skipping 1, going here, or there is no more V stitches, so we're going into this last stitch. Whatever way makes sense to you. We are going to continue to do these V stitches, this row 3, for the bulk of our scarf. We are going to do a total of 61 V-stitch rows, and that includes row 2. So don't include this single crochet as part of your row or as part of this count. This is a different count. You'll have 1 single crochet row at the beginning and 1 single crochet row at the very end. You are only counting these V-stitches. So right now I have 3 V-stitch rows and I need 58 more. So I will join you. I'll work up a couple more rows and then I will join you and show you how you do that last single crochet row. I ended up doing a total of 9 V-stitch rows. If you're not sure how to count this, let me show you. This V-stitch is like, oh, so easy to count because you can kind of have little placeholders as you go up. So this is row 1 of the V-stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Or if, I don't know, I feel like this is really fun to do. You just put your fingers in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Am I weird? Yeah, we're all a little weird, right? I'm going to finish off this last V-stitch row with the single double crochet at the end. And the next row I'm doing is going to be a repeat of the very first row, which is the single crochets. I'm going to chain 1 to start, turn, and then I'm going to single crochet all the way across. So I'm going to single crochet in this first one, and then I'm going to single crochet into here, into the chain space, and into there. So each V will have 3. So 1, 2, and 3 in the V. So you're not going to go in between the V's. We're going to go into this part of the V, the chain space, and that part of the V-stitch. So 3 again. 1, 2, 3, and again. Last one. And then last single crochet will be into the last single double crochet down here. And you'll know you are on track when you have the same number of single crochets as you did down here. So again, for this pattern, you should have 29 single crochets up here. And I, since I'm doing a little bit smaller of a sample, should have only 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Perfect. We're going to go ahead and finish this off. Now, when you're doing tassels, sometimes you can get away with having this as part of your tassel, which I endorse so much because I don't like weaving in tails. However, for this one, because I did end up going into every single one across, it would have looked a little funny to me on the ends to have 3 strands and 2 strands on that side. So I went ahead and I weaved in the top and the bottom. So the end and the beginning. So my little trick, in case you missed it, is to turn the eye of the needle, turn towards you, and the skinny side is facing up. You're going to take your yarn and pinch it right below the eye and pull it off. And then you're going to turn so the eye of the needle is facing up, and then you can kind of grab it like that. Now, if you have a needle with a bigger eye, or you want to use one of those awesome little sewing tools that you put the yarn through and then pull it, or thread, I guess in that case, that is up to you. But this is a way that has worked for me. I would say about 95 is not that high, 92% of the time. So to weave in, you're going to go back into the yarn and you are just going to go through different stitches. Now, the general rule of thumb for a wearable is 3 times different directions is going to make sure that that yarn does not pull out. Because if you pull on it now and you cut right there, that yarn is just, it's going to come loose. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go under here. I'm going to work back the same way that I came from. And then I am going to go back through the same way again, but each time a different direction. So now if I pull on this, that yarn is not moving. And then we will do this bottom, beginning tail. Now the beginning tail, obviously, you don't really want to go through these guys because it's going to be pretty obvious. I work up through this first row of single crochets because it's really easy to go through the legs of them. And then back again. Now notice I'm obviously not going in the exact place that I came out because that kind of undoes what you just did. Go through a slightly different spot. Oops. And that yarn is nice and secure. So there are a couple different ways to do tassels for this pattern. I just wanted it to be as simple and as basic as possible. You can grab a piece of cardboard and wrap it around however many times and then cut the tops and the bottoms. For this, I just kind of eyeballed it. I feel like that's most of the time I get good results out of that. It's about the length that I want it to be. So I'm going to pinch right there. And since I want it to have two little yarns coming out, I am going to go here. And that is the double. That's going to be double like that. So I pinch here and then I go for as long as this little yarn is, pinch there, and then keep going back and forth. Now, is this an exact, really great measurement way to do it? Maybe not. But if you don't care about exact, this is to me just nice and simple enough. We're going to start off with that much. So I'm going to cut my yarn carefully, and then I am just going to cut through all of the loops on this side. Loops on that side. Like I said, many people will use a book or they will use a cardboard to wrap it around, and it's a little bit easier. You don't have to pinch so much on the yarn. But this is just easy for me. I don't have to go and find anything. So to attach, we're going to grab one, and remember, we are going to fold it kind of in half. And then we're going to take our yarn or our piece, go through the single crochet, grab that loop end, pull it through, kind of yarn over like you would normally do, and then pull it through that little loop. And then just pull pretty tight. And there you have it. Now, they're not even. That's okay. The whole point is at the end, we will make sure that they're even. So we will grab our next little guy. Go into our project, through the loop again, pull it through, kind of yarn over. There you go. Now I have two cute little tassels. I'm going to join you again when I have a few more attached. You see, I added a few more tassels in, and now we're going to try to get them to be a little bit more even across. Now, if you are a quilter and have a cutting mat, this is a really, really easy thing to do. But I have one and I don't really want to dig it out. So I grabbed a lovely bill instead. Give it a better use than what it's really there for. Now, you can use a measuring tape if you want it to get to a certain length, or you can kind of go by what the smallest one is and then chop along that way. As you can see, this probably is not the best pair of scissors for this. I should have gotten a long pair of scissors. And another method is just to hold them up and eyeball it, which for these small scissors probably is the best plan. And there we have mostly even tassels. In conclusion, this took 2 rows of single crochet, one at the beginning, one at the end, and 61 rows of the stitch. Now, I did promise that I would tell you what it took for this skinnier little guy. See the difference there. So this is a 2-weight yarn. It is roving. So if you don't know what roving is compared to a normal yarn, a normal yarn is just, it's the same size throughout. Like this is a 4-weight, it's going to be a 4-weight, it will always be a 4-weight, nothing changes. Now with a roving style, you can see some of these are thicker than others. Like this part is super thin, but then this is a little bit thicker. So a 2-weight, as it's classified, means that that is the smallest that yarn will get. But some parts, see if we can get a nice little, that part, like that. There we go. This is a bit more like a 3-weight. So that compared to that, you can see that there absolutely is a difference. So with a roving weight, you will go again from thick to thin to thick. So this could get up to a, it didn't, but some yarns can go between like a 2 and a 4-weight, or, crazy range. I would say this went between a pretty good 2 and a little bit bigger 3. So for similar, this took, so each skein was 475 yards of this Big Twist Nova, and it took almost the entire ball, well, cake in this circumstance. I had about maybe, I did some measuring on my scale. There's about 19 to 20 yards left of this. So you will want about 455 yards to do this. And remember how I said it was a multiple of 3? You will want to chain 36, and then you will have 35 single crochets down at the bottom. And you will have, again, the single crochet at the beginning, single crochet at the end, and you will need to do these V stitches for 185 rows. It seems like a lot, but I promise the stitch works up so quickly. So whether you make the one we went through together, or you want to experiment and try something different, I hope you have a blast making this, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye. This yarn, this measurement